Hey everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something that's pretty much taken over the internet. Short form videos.
Oh, yeah.
Reels, shorts, TikToks, the ones that are like everywhere you look these days.
Totally.
They're fun, they're super catchy, and they're definitely entertaining. But have you ever stopped to think about what they might be doing to your brain?
Ooh, good question.
We've got this really insightful Medium article by Muhammad Akram that we're diving into today, and it's honestly pretty eye-opening. So, the article starts off talking about all the positives of these videos. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They are really entertaining, like a really quick, easy way to de-stress at the end of the day or, whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even learn some pretty cool stuff from them. I've definitely picked up a couple of new kitchen tricks from a well-timed reel or two.
Oh, for sure.
And the article points out how valuable they can be for small businesses trying to reach new customers. But then it kind of flips the script and dives into the potential downsides. And this is where it gets really interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what's so interesting about platforms like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube is the way they tap into our basic human psychology,
Yeah.
often without us even realizing it,
Yeah.
you know?
It's true. And the article mentions how things like attention span and even potential addiction come into play. Like, it's not just about watching a few funny videos anymore. It can become
Agree?
a lot.
Exactly.
It can definitely become a lot. There's a part where the author talks about how, constantly seeing these perfectly curated lives can really mess with your self-esteem,
Yeah,
which honestly makes total sense to me.
it does.
Because it's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing yourself to others when you're constantly scrolling through essentially everyone else's highlight reel.
Right. And I think it's that classic fear of missing out, that FOMO, but amplified, you know? For some users, especially younger folks, it can be really tough to separate those idealized online lives from reality.
And that's what's scary, right? Because then it's not just fun and games anymore.
Yeah.
The article even links excessive use of these platforms to some pretty serious mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, things like that, which are definitely things we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. I think the article even specifically mentions social isolation in some cases too, which is,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, it can be a real issue.
Yeah, for sure. And then it gets into the science behind all of this, which I found super interesting, like how these videos are actually messing with our brain chemistry. We're talking hormones here, people. Dopamine, cortisol, oxytocin, all playing a role in how we feel and behave when we're glued to our screens. What's the deal with all that?
Well, you can think of it this way. Every time you watch a video that really grabs your attention, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine,
Oh, I see.
which is like the feel-good hormone.
Okay.
It's like a reward system, right?
Yeah.
And because these videos are designed to be so short and engaging, those dopamine hits keep coming and coming and coming,
Yeah.
making you want to watch more and more and more.
So it's like a feedback loop, basically. The more you watch, the more you crave that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, hours have gone by. That's a little scary, honestly.
Right.
And the article doesn't shy away from that. It actually compares it to addiction in extreme cases, saying that all this stimulation can actually disrupt the brain's natural balance.
It's true. And it's not just the dopamine either. Cortisol, that's the stress hormone, comes into play as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how you can start scrolling through these videos feeling perfectly fine, but then after a while you start to feel, I don't know, maybe a little anxious or stressed?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's the cortisol kicking in.
Wow.
The article suggests that the constant stream of information, the pressure to keep up with all the trends, even just the fear of missing out, all of those things contribute to that, like underlying stress response.
Huh. That makes a lot of sense. It's like your brain is on high alert, even though you're just watching, silly videos.
Right, exactly. And then there's oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. It's released when we feel connected to others.
Yeah.
And these platforms are really good at leveraging that. They create that sense of community, that sense of belonging, making you feel like you're part of something bigger.
So it's not just mindless entertainment. There's a whole cocktail of hormones at play here, all designed to keep us hooked.
Pretty much.
That's a powerful combination. It makes you wonder, if these videos are so good at tapping into our brain chemistry like that, what does that mean for the people who are making them?
That's a great question.
Oh.
And it leads us into the business side of things, which is, well, these platforms aren't just about entertainment. They're about profit.
Right.
And understanding how they make money is, I think, crucial to understanding how they manipulate our behavior.
Yeah. So we're talking big business here. It's not just some random person posting a funny video, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole machine behind these platforms. And it feels like they're almost using our brains against us a little bit.
Well, in a way they are. It's all about engagement, right?
Yeah.
The article talks about how these platforms are built on algorithms that are designed to keep us glued to our screens.
Yeah.
They're tracking what we watch, how long we watch it, what we like, what we share. And they use all that data to feed us more and more content that's tailored to our individual preferences.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a never-ending cycle of, personalized content designed to keep us hooked.
So it's like they're creating these like custom-made rabbit holes for each of us.
Exactly.
No wonder it's so hard to resist. You
Yeah.
start watching one video and then another one pops up and then another and another, and then before you know it, you've completely lost track of time.
It's almost insidious, really. It is. It is. The article actually compares these algorithms to slot machines. Like you keep scrolling and scrolling, hoping for that next hit of dopamine, that next video that's really going to grab your attention.
And just like a slot machine, you never know when that next win is going to come.
Exactly.
So you keep playing and playing and playing. I mean, watching and watching, scrolling and scrolling.
Yeah, and all the while, these platforms are collecting data on your every move, building this really detailed profile of your interests, your habits, even your vulnerabilities.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it that way. Like they know us better than we know ourselves.
Right.
But why go to all that trouble? It can't just be for fun, right?
Oh, of course not. It all comes down to advertising.
Oh, okay.
The more engaged we are, the more data they collect, the more targeted their advertising becomes,
Right.
and the more money they make. I mean, they're selling our attention to the highest bidder. It's as simple as that.
So we're not just the viewers, we're the product.
Pretty much.
That's a sobering thought. But knowing all of this, like, how do we break free from this cycle? Is it even possible?
It's definitely challenging, but the article does offer some practical advice. And it all starts with awareness. The more we understand how these platforms operate, how they use our own psychology against us, the better equipped we are to resist their manipulation.
So it's like taking back control of our own brains.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, one strategy the article recommends is setting limits on our screen time.
Okay.
It sounds simple, but it can be really, really effective. Just decide in advance how much time you're willing to spend on these platforms each day and then stick to it.
Okay.
You can use the built-in timers on your phone or download an app that helps you track your usage. There's tons of them out there.
That's a good idea. Yeah, it's so easy to get sucked in and lose track of time. But what if you're actually trying to use these platforms for business? Do the same rules apply?
Absolutely. In fact, it's even more important for businesses to be mindful of how they're using these platforms. Instead of just getting caught up in the endless pursuit of views and likes,
Right.
businesses should really be focusing on creating high-quality content that provides genuine value to their audience.
So it's about being strategic, not just
Oh.
like chasing trends.
Exactly. Think about your target audience. What are their needs? What are their pain points? How can you use these platforms to provide solutions and build meaningful connections?
It's about using these tools for good, not letting them use you.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But it's not just about businesses, right? We can all apply these principles to our personal lives as well.
Oh, absolutely. Another key piece of advice for the article is to diversify our activities. Don't let these platforms become your only source of entertainment or connection.
So instead of spending hours scrolling through videos, maybe pick up a book, go for a walk, have a real conversation with a friend,
Exactly. It's about rediscovering the joys of real-life experiences. Right. These platforms can be a fun and engaging way to connect with others and learn new things, but they shouldn't dominate our lives. It's all about finding that balance.
That's a great point. It's so easy to forget that there's a whole world out there beyond our screens. And the article also talks about the importance of fostering real-world connections. So much of our interaction these days happens online, but it's so important to nurture those face-to-face relationships as well.
It's about prioritizing quality over quantity. Instead of trying to amass hundreds of online friends, focus on building deep, meaningful relationships with the people who matter most to you.
That's a great reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in the numbers game, but at the end of the day, it's those real-life connections that truly enrich our lives.
It seems like the key takeaway here is mindfulness. Like really being aware of how these platforms work, the tactics they use, and the potential impact they can have on our, well-being. It's kind of empowering, though, to realize that we do have a choice.
Oh, absolutely. We're not powerless in the face of these algorithms.
Right? We can choose to engage with content that aligns with our values, content that inspires us, educates us, makes us laugh. We can be more intentional about who we follow and what we allow into our feeds.
Yeah, it's like curating our own digital experience instead of letting the algorithms curate it for us.
Exactly.
But it's not just about being selective with what we consume, is it? The article also talks about like being mindful of how we create and share content.
That's a really important point. We often talk about being responsible consumers of media, but I think we also need to be responsible creators. Before you post that next reel or short, take a moment to consider the message you're sending. Is it authentic? Is it adding value to the conversation? Is it something you'd be proud to share with your grandmother?
That's a good litmus test. I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. This has been such a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on these platforms now.
Me too.
But it's also a little overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah.
Knowing all of this, how do we even begin to navigate these platforms, like without falling into all those traps?
Well, it's a journey,
Yeah.
and it starts with small steps. Maybe it's setting a timer for your scrolling sessions,
Hmm.
or consciously choosing to follow accounts that bring you joy or knowledge. Maybe it's taking a break from those platforms altogether for a day or two and just, you know, rediscovering the pleasures of offline life.
Right. It's about finding what works for you, what helps you feel more balanced and in control. It's not about deprivation, it's about empowerment.
I love that.
It's about using these tools intentionally rather than
Yeah.
letting them use us.
Exactly. These platforms can be a wonderful way to connect with others, learn new things, and share our own creativity. But, it's up to us to define how we engage with them, to set those boundaries, and to prioritize our own well-being.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this topic, but it's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. And, it's a conversation that's really just beginning. The more we understand about the psychology of these platforms, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this, ever-evolving digital landscape.
Absolutely. So, to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this thought. Knowing what we now know about the power of these platforms, how can we use that knowledge to create a more mindful, intentional, and ultimately fulfilling online experience? For ourselves and for others, it's a question worth pondering for sure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.